1. The hidden blacksmith. In the bustling village of Emberfall, nestled at the foot of the majestic Draken Mountains, the rhythmic clanging of metal echoed through the narrow cobblestone streets. The source of this persistent sound was a modest blacksmith's forge, where a young woman named Arin toiled tirelessly. Her skill with the hammer and anvil was unmatched, though few knew of the secrets she kept hidden beneath her simple exterior. Arin's life in Emberfall was one of hard work and quiet solitude. Raised by her adoptive father, a gruff but kind-hearted blacksmith named Garrick, she had learned the trade from a young age. Her days were spent crafting weapons and tools for the villagers, and her nights were filled with dreams of a past she couldn't quite remember. Despite her humble surroundings, there was an undeniable grace in the way Arin moved, a latent power that hinted at something extraordinary. It was during one such ordinary day that the extraordinary began to unfold. The village was abuzz with the arrival of a group of dragon riders, a rare and awe-inspiring sight. The riders were led by Kael, a brooding figure whose piercing gaze seemed to see through Arin's carefully constructed facade. The villagers gathered around, eager to catch a glimpse of the majestic creatures and their formidable riders. As the dragon riders dismounted, Kael approached the forge. "I seek the blacksmith," he announced, his voice commanding yet weary. Arin stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron. "I am the blacksmith," she replied, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. Kael raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. "You?" "I was expecting someone older." Arin shrugged, used to such reactions. "What do you need?" Kael produced a sword from beneath his cloak. It was a magnificent weapon, its blade etched with intricate runes that glowed faintly in the dim light. "This sword is of ancient make, and it needs repair." "Can you do it?" Arin examined the blade, her eyes widening as she recognized the craftsmanship. "This is dragon steel," she murmured, her fingers tracing the runes. "I've only seen this in books." Kael's gaze sharpened. "Then you know its value. Can you repair it?" Arin nodded, determination settling in her heart. "I can. It will take time, but I can." As she set to work, the forge grew quiet, the villagers sensing the importance of the task. Arin felt Kael's eyes on her, but she focused on the sword, her hands moving with practiced precision. She could feel the magic within the metal, resonating with something deep inside her. Over the next few days, Kael remained in Emberfall, his presence a constant reminder of the sword's significance. He was a man of few words, but Arin found herself drawn to his quiet strength. They spoke little, but there was an unspoken understanding between them, a shared sense of duty and burden. One evening, as Arin was finishing her work, Kael approached her. "You're different," he said, his tone contemplative. "There's a strength in you, a power." Arin paused, her heart racing. "I don't know what you mean." Kael's eyes bore into hers. "I think you do. There's more to you than meets the eye, Arin. And I think you're meant for something greater." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted outside the forge. Villagers were shouting, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Arin and Kael rushed outside to find a group of mercenaries attacking the village, their leader demanding the return of the sword. Kael drew his weapon, ready to fight. "Stay back," he ordered Arin. But Arin couldn't stay back. As the battle raged around her, she felt a surge of energy, a fire igniting within her. Without thinking, she grabbed a piece of dragon steel and a hammer, and in a flash of light, the metal transformed into a glowing sword in her hands. The mercenaries hesitated, awed by the sight. Kael took advantage of their distraction, cutting through their ranks with deadly precision. Arin fought alongside him, her movements fluid and instinctual, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. When the dust settled, the mercenaries lay defeated, and the villagers cheered. Kael turned to Arin, his expression unreadable. "You're not just a blacksmith," he said quietly. Arin nodded, the truth finally dawning on her. "No, I'm not. And I think it's time I found out who I really am." As the first light of dawn broke over Emberfall, Arin and Kael stood together, ready to embark on a journey that would change their lives forever. The hidden blacksmith had begun to uncover her true destiny, and the adventure of a lifetime awaited. 2. A journey begins. The sun rose over Emberfall, casting a golden hue across the village and signaling the start of a new day. For Arin, however, it marked the beginning of a journey that would take her far beyond the familiar streets and forge she had known all her life. As the villagers went about their morning routines, unaware of the significance of the day, Arin and Kael prepared to leave. Arin packed her belongings, her mind racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She glanced around the forge one last time, her heart heavy with the realization that she might not return for a long time. Garrick, her adoptive father, stood in the doorway, his weathered face lined with concern and pride. "Are you sure about this, Arin?" Garrick asked, his voice gruff but gentle. "The world beyond Emberfall is dangerous, and you're still discovering your powers." Arin nodded, determination in her eyes. "I have to do this, Father. I need to understand who I am and what I'm capable of. I can't hide here forever." Garrick sighed, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Just promise me you'll be careful. And remember, you'll always have a home here." "I promise," Arin whispered, holding back tears. She stepped back and took a deep breath, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Kael waited outside with their horses, his expression as stoic as ever. He had been uncharacteristically quiet since the battle, but Arin sensed a growing respect and trust between them. She mounted her horse, a sturdy mare named Ember, and turned to Kael. "Where do we start?" she asked, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Kael pointed to the distant mountains. "We head to the Draken Mountains. There's an ancient library there, hidden within the peaks. It holds the history of the dragon riders and the secrets of your lineage. If we're to understand your powers, that's where we need to go." With a final nod to Garrick and the villagers, Arin and Kael set off, their journey beginning with the rhythmic clopping of hooves on the cobblestone streets. The village quickly faded into the distance, replaced by rolling hills and dense forests. As they traveled, Kael shared stories of the dragon riders, their noble heritage, and the bond between rider and dragon. Arin listened intently, absorbing every detail. She learned that the dragons were not mere beasts but intelligent creatures with their own language and culture. The bond between a rider and their dragon was sacred, forged through mutual respect and understanding. Days turned into weeks as they journeyed deeper into the wilderness. They encountered treacherous terrain, wild beasts, and unpredictable weather. Through it all, Arin's skills as a blacksmith and warrior were put to the test. She discovered that her powers went beyond mere strength. She could sense the magic within the earth and metal, and with practice, she began to harness this energy. One evening, as they set up camp by a tranquil river, Arin practiced her newfound abilities under Kael's watchful eye. She concentrated on a piece of dragon steel, willing it to transform. A faint glow enveloped the metal, and it began to shift and mold under her touch. "You're getting stronger," Kael remarked, his voice tinged with admiration. "But there's still much to learn. The library will provide answers, but you must be prepared for the challenges ahead." Arin nodded, determination etched on her face. "I'll do whatever it takes." Their journey took a turn when they reached the outskirts of a small town nestled at the foot of the Draken Mountains. The town was abuzz with rumors of unrest in the kingdom, whispers of rebellion and dark forces gathering strength. Kael's expression grew more serious, his gaze fixed on the looming mountains. "We need to be cautious," he warned. "The closer we get to the library, the more danger we'll face." There are those who would stop at nothing to keep the secrets hidden. As they made their way through the town, Arin couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Shadows seemed to follow them, and she caught glimpses of figures disappearing around corners. Kael was on high alert, his hand never straying far from his sword. Their suspicions were confirmed when, one night, they were ambushed by a group of masked assailants. Arin and Kael fought back fiercely, their training and bond as a team proving invaluable. The attackers were skilled, but Arin's growing mastery of her powers turned the tide. She channeled her energy into her sword, creating a blaze of light that drove the assailants back. Breathing heavily, Arin and Kael stood victorious, but the encounter left them with more questions than answers. Who were these attackers, and what did they want? The answers, they hoped, lay within the ancient library. With renewed determination, they continued their journey, the Draken Mountains now looming ominously ahead. Arin's powers grew stronger with each passing day, and her bond with Kael deepened, built on trust and shared purpose. As they reached the base of the mountains, a sense of foreboding settled over them. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but Arin knew she had to press on. The hidden blacksmith had begun to uncover her true destiny, and the journey was far from over. Together, she and Kael would face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to unlock the secrets of her lineage and save their world from the looming darkness. 3. The Dragon Riders. The Draken Mountains stood tall and imposing, their snow-capped peaks piercing the sky. The path that led up the mountains was treacherous, with narrow trails and steep cliffs. Arin and Kael, their horses left behind in the village below, climbed cautiously, their breaths forming clouds in the cold air. The anticipation of what lay ahead fueled their determination, driving them onward despite the harsh conditions. As they ascended, the landscape transformed. The dense forests gave way to rocky terrain, and the air grew thinner and colder. After days of arduous climbing, they reached a plateau where the ancient library was said to be hidden. Here, nestled within the heart of the mountains, they found a sanctuary of sorts, a place where the dragon riders had once gathered to train and seek wisdom. At the center of the plateau stood a massive stone structure, partially obscured by overgrown vines and weathered by time. This was the library, a repository of knowledge and history. As they approached, Kael's demeanor changed. There was a reverence in his eyes, a deep respect for the place and its significance. "Welcome to the Dragon's Keep," Kael said, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "This is where the dragon riders have trained for generations, where they forged bonds with their dragons and honed their skills. It's been abandoned for years, but the knowledge it holds remains." Arin felt a shiver of excitement and trepidation. She followed Kael into the library, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. The interior was vast, with towering shelves filled with ancient tomes and scrolls. The air was thick with the scent of parchment and history. Kael led her to a central chamber, where a large table stood, covered in maps and manuscripts. "We need to find the records of your lineage," Kael said, his fingers tracing the edges of a map. "There's a section dedicated to the royal bloodlines and the dragon riders' heritage. It should tell us more about your powers and your connection to the dragons." Arin nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation. She and Kael began their search, sifting through the dusty tomes and scrolls. Hours turned into days as they pored over the ancient texts, piecing together fragments of history. They discovered that Arin's lineage was indeed extraordinary. She was descended from a powerful line of dragon riders, known for their ability to not only bond with dragons but also channel their magic. One evening, as they delved deeper into the records, they found a manuscript detailing the legend of the dragon's heir, a prophecy that spoke of a time when a descendant of the royal line would rise to unite the dragon riders and restore peace to Drakonia. The manuscript described a series of trials that the heir would face, each designed to test their strength, courage, and wisdom. "This is it," Kael said, his voice filled with awe. "You're the dragon's heir, Arin. This prophecy speaks of you. Your powers, your connection to the dragons, it all makes sense now. Arin's mind reeled with the revelation. She had always felt different, out of place, but now she understood why. Her destiny was intertwined with that of Draconia and its dragons. The weight of this knowledge was both exhilarating and daunting. As they continued their search, they found records of the trials the dragon's heir would face. The first trial was to bond with a dragon, a sacred ritual that required not just strength and bravery, but a deep understanding and respect for the dragons. Kael explained that there were still dragons in the mountains, hidden away in secret sanctuaries. "We need to find a dragon willing to bond with you," Kael said. "It's not just about proving yourself. The dragon must choose you, just as much as you choose it." The next morning, they set out to find the dragons. The path was perilous, leading them through narrow passes and steep cliffs. Arin could feel the magic in the air, a pulsing energy that grew stronger as they approached the dragon's sanctuary. They reached a hidden valley, lush and vibrant, a stark contrast to the rugged mountains. Here, in this secluded haven, the dragons dwelled. Majestic and powerful, they moved with a grace that belied their size. Arin's heart swelled with awe as she gazed upon them. Kael stepped forward, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. "Great dragons of Draconia," he called out, his voice respectful and clear. "We seek an audience with one who would bond with the dragon's heir." The dragons regarded them with piercing eyes, their presence commanding and formidable. One dragon, larger and more imposing than the rest, stepped forward. Its scales shimmered with a myriad of colors, reflecting the light in a dazzling display. The dragon's eyes met Arin's, and in that moment, she felt a connection, a recognition that went beyond words. The dragon approached, lowering its massive head until it was level with Arin. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched its snout. A surge of energy passed between them, a powerful bond forming in an instant. The dragon's eyes glowed with approval, and a sense of acceptance washed over Arin. "You have been chosen," Kael said softly, his eyes filled with pride. "This is the first step of your journey as the dragon's heir." Arin felt a deep sense of honor and responsibility. The bond with the dragon was a profound connection, one that would guide her through the trials to come. As they left the sanctuary, she knew that her journey was far from over. The trials awaited, and with each step, she would uncover more about her heritage, her powers, and her destiny. 4. The betrayal. The days following Arin's bonding with the dragon were a whirlwind of preparation and training. The dragon, whom she named Solara for the way its scales shimmered like the sun, became a constant companion and a source of strength. Under Kael's guidance, Arin honed her skills, learning to harness the power of dragon steel and control the magic that flowed through her veins. The bond with Solara grew stronger with each passing day, their connection deepening into a seamless partnership. However, the tranquility of their training was soon shattered. As they continued their search for the hidden trials, rumors of unrest and rebellion in Draconia reached their ears. Whispers of a dark force gathering strength, of mercenaries and traitors moving in the shadows, created an undercurrent of tension. It became clear that their mission was not only about uncovering Arin's heritage but also about confronting a looming threat that could engulf the entire kingdom. One evening, while they were camped in a secluded forest clearing, Kael's demeanor grew unusually somber. He had been restless and distracted for days, and Arin couldn't shake the feeling that he was keeping something from her. As they sat by the fire, the crackling flames casting flickering shadows, Kael finally spoke. "There's something you need to know," he began, his voice heavy with emotion. "Before we left Emberfall, I received a message from an old ally. There's a faction within the kingdom that seeks to overthrow the current regime. They believe that the return of the dragon's heir threatens their power." Arin's eyes widened in shock. "You knew about this and didn't tell me?" Kael nodded, his expression pained. I wanted to protect you, to give you time to train and grow stronger. But it seems we're running out of time. The faction is led by someone from within the Dragon Riders, a traitor who has been working against us from the start. The weight of Kael's words settled over Arin like a heavy cloak. The realization that someone from within their ranks had betrayed them was both shocking and infuriating. Who is it? She demanded, her fists clenched. Kael hesitated, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. It's Marcus. He was once a trusted friend, but he's been corrupted by power and greed. He's the one who sent the mercenaries after us in Emberfall. Arin felt a surge of anger and betrayal. Marcus had always been a respected figure among the Dragon Riders, someone they looked up to. The thought that he could turn against them was almost too much to bear. What do we do now? She asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Kael's expression hardened. We confront him. We can't let him undermine everything we're working for. But we need to be careful. Marcus has allies, and they'll do anything to stop us. The next day, they set off towards the hidden base where Marcus and his followers were rumored to be hiding. The journey was fraught with tension, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the conspiracy. As they approached the base, a sense of foreboding settled over them. The base was hidden within a series of caves, guarded by Marcus's loyalists. Arin and Kael moved cautiously, using the cover of darkness to their advantage. As they infiltrated the base, the air grew thick with anticipation and danger. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every sound a potential betrayal. They found Marcus in a large chamber, surrounded by his followers. He was a tall, imposing figure, his presence commanding and intimidating. When he saw Arin and Kael, a cruel smile twisted his lips. So, you've finally come, he said, his voice dripping with malice. I knew you couldn't resist playing the hero. Arin stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. You betrayed us, Marcus. You betrayed everything the Dragon Riders stand for. Why? Marcus's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold resolve. The old ways are dying, Arin. The kingdom needs strong leaders, not idealistic fools. With the dragon's heir at my side, I could have ruled. But you and Kael had to interfere. Kael drew his sword, his eyes locked on Marcus. This ends now. A fierce battle erupted, the chamber filled with the clash of swords and the roar of dragons. Arin fought with all her might, her bond with Solara giving her strength and agility. Kael faced off against Marcus, their swords clashing in a dance of skill and fury. As the battle raged on, it became clear that Marcus's followers were no match for the combined strength of Arin, Kael, and Solara. One by one, they fell, until only Marcus remained. Driven by desperation and rage, Marcus unleashed a powerful blast of dark magic, aimed directly at Arin. In a split second, Solara moved to shield her, taking the full force of the attack. The dragon let out a roar of pain, and Arin felt their bond shudder. Fueled by a mixture of grief and fury, she summoned all her strength and delivered a decisive blow, disarming Marcus and bringing him to his knees. It's over, Arin said, her voice filled with a mix of sorrow and resolve. You've lost. Marcus looked up at her, his eyes filled with bitterness. You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. There are others who share my vision, and they will come for you. With that, Marcus fell silent, his fate sealed. Arin and Kael stood victorious, but the cost had been high. Solara, though wounded, survived, their bond stronger than ever. As they left the base, Arin couldn't help but think of the trials still ahead. The betrayal had shaken her, but it had also made her stronger. She knew that the road to reclaiming her heritage and saving Draconia would be filled with challenges, but with Kael and Solara by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. 5. The Lost Kingdom. The aftermath of the battle with Marcus and his followers left Arin and Kael with a renewed sense of urgency. The betrayal had exposed the depths of the conspiracy they were up against, and the wounds inflicted on Solara served as a stark reminder of the dangers that lay ahead. Determined to uncover the truth and reclaim her heritage, Arin knew their next step was to find the lost kingdom of Drakonia. Legend spoke of a hidden kingdom, once the heart of the dragon rider's realm, now shrouded in mystery and forgotten by time. It was said to hold the key to unlocking the full potential of the dragon's heir. With Marcus defeated, Arin and Kael set out to find this ancient place, guided by the fragments of knowledge they had pieced together from the library. Their journey led them deeper into the Draken Mountains, through treacherous terrain and uncharted paths. As they ventured further, the landscape grew more rugged and wild, a testament to the passage of centuries and the abandonment of the once great kingdom. Solara, though still recovering, flew overhead, her presence a reassuring symbol of strength and resilience. Days turned into weeks as they pressed on, each step bringing them closer to their goal. One evening, as they camped by a crystal-clear mountain stream, Kael shared a story from his own past, a tale that hinted at the significance of the lost kingdom. When I was a child, Kael began, his voice thoughtful and reflective, my father used to tell me stories of a place where dragons and humans lived in perfect harmony. A place where magic flowed freely, and the bond between rider and dragon was sacred. He called it the heart of Draconia. I always thought it was just a myth, but now I wonder if he knew more than he let on. Arin listened intently, her curiosity piqued. Do you think the heart of Draconia is the lost kingdom we're searching for? Kael nodded. I believe so. And if it is, it might hold the answers we need to defeat the darkness that's spreading through our land. The next morning, they continued their ascent, guided by ancient maps and the intuition that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The air grew colder, the wind more biting, but their resolve never wavered. As they reached a high plateau, a breathtaking sight met their eyes, a hidden valley, lush and green, protected by towering peaks and shimmering with magic. This is it, Kael said, awe in his voice. The Lost Kingdom. They descended into the valley, their hearts filled with a mixture of wonder and anticipation. The ruins of a once great city sprawled before them, overgrown with vines and moss but still majestic in its decay. Stone statues of dragons and riders lined the pathways, their expressions frozen in time. The air was thick with the remnants of powerful magic, a tangible reminder of the kingdom's former glory. As they explored the ruins, Arin felt a deep connection to the place, as if the very stones recognized her as one of their own. She and Kael made their way to the central temple, a massive structure adorned with intricate carvings and glowing runes. Inside, they found a vast chamber filled with ancient relics and artifacts, the heart of the Lost Kingdom's knowledge and power. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, upon which rested a crystal orb, its surface swirling with colors and light. Arin approached it, her hand trembling with anticipation. As she touched the orb, a surge of energy coursed through her, and visions filled her mind, images of the kingdom's past, of dragon riders in their prime, and of a great battle that led to the kingdom's fall. Kael watched in awe as the orb's light enveloped Arin, illuminating her with a radiant glow. When the visions faded, Arin felt a deep sense of understanding and purpose. She now knew the history of her people, the true extent of her powers, and the path she needed to take to restore the balance in Draconia. There is a hidden power here, Arin said, her voice resonant with newfound confidence. A power that can help us defeat the darkness. But we must unlock it together. As they delved deeper into the temple's secrets, they discovered a series of trials designed to test the dragon's heir. These trials, much like the ones they had read about in the library, were meant to challenge Arin's strength, wisdom, and heart. With Kael and Solara by her side, Arin faced each trial with determination, overcoming obstacles that tested her physical and magical abilities. The first trial was one of strength, pitting her against formidable guardians who tested her combat skills and her bond with Solara. The second trial was of wisdom, requiring her to solve complex puzzles and navigate a labyrinth filled with illusions and traps. The final trial was of heart, challenging her to confront her deepest fears and insecurities, to prove that her resolve and compassion were worthy of the title of Dragon's Heir. With each trial, Arin grew stronger, her confidence and abilities blossoming. Kael's unwavering support and Solara's fierce loyalty bolstered her, reminding her that she was not alone in her quest. As they completed the final trial, the temple resonated with a powerful energy, a sign that the Lost Kingdom recognized Arin as the true heir. In the heart of the temple, they discovered a hidden chamber, its walls covered in glowing runes and ancient scripts. At the center stood a grand altar, upon which rested a magnificent dragonsteel sword, imbued with the combined magic of the dragon riders. Arin approached the altar, her hand steady as she reached for the sword. As her fingers closed around the hilt, a surge of power coursed through her, binding her fate with that of the Lost Kingdom. The sword's magic intertwined with her own, creating a bond that amplified her abilities and solidified her role as the dragon's heir. The chamber filled with a radiant light, a beacon of hope for the future of Draconia. "We've done it," Kael said, his voice filled with pride and relief. "You're ready, Arin. Ready to face whatever lies ahead." Arin nodded, a sense of peace and determination settling over her. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led her to this moment. With the power of the Lost Kingdom at her side, she was prepared to confront the darkness that threatened their world and restore the balance that had been lost. As they left the temple and gazed upon the valley below, Arin felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Lost Kingdom had given her the tools and knowledge she needed, and with Kael and Solara by her side, she knew they could overcome any challenge. Together, they would face the final battle, determined to protect their people and ensure the legacy of the dragon riders endured. 6. The Reclamation. The journey back from the Lost Kingdom to the heart of Draconia was filled with a renewed sense of purpose and urgency. Arin, now fully embracing her role as the dragon's heir, felt the weight of her destiny but also the strength and support of Kael and Solara. The power of the dragonsteel sword and the knowledge gained from the ancient temple fortified her resolve to reclaim her heritage and restore balance to the kingdom. As they neared the central stronghold of Draconia, they encountered signs of the dark forces that had been gathering strength. Villages lay in ruins, and fear lurked in the eyes of those they passed. Marcus's betrayal had left deep scars, and the shadow of his conspiracy loomed large. Arin knew that the final battle would not only be a test of strength but a battle for the very soul of Draconia. Upon reaching the capital, they were greeted by a somber scene. The once bustling city was now a place of fear and uncertainty. Loyalists to the dragon riders had formed a resistance, but their numbers were dwindling, and hope was fading. Arin's arrival, however, brought a glimmer of light. Word spread quickly that the dragon's heir had returned, and with her, the promise of salvation. Arin, Kael, and Solara met with the leaders of the resistance in a secret council. The room was filled with determined faces, people who had suffered much but were ready to fight for their future. Arin stood before them, her voice steady and filled with conviction. "We stand on the brink of a new dawn," she began, her eyes meeting those of the assembled leaders. "The power of the dragon riders flows through us, and together, we can reclaim our kingdom. The darkness that has spread through Draconia seeks to divide and conquer us, but united, we are stronger." The leaders nodded in agreement, their spirits lifted by her words. Plans were laid for a coordinated attack on the stronghold where the dark forces, now led by a powerful sorcerer allied with Marcus, had entrenched themselves. The battle would be fierce, but with the combined strength of the resistance and the power of the dragon riders, victory seemed within reach. The night before the battle, Arin found a moment of quiet reflection. She stood on a balcony overlooking the city, the weight of the upcoming conflict heavy on her mind. Kael joined her, his presence a comforting reminder that she was not alone. We've come a long way, Kael said softly, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. No matter what happens tomorrow, know that you've already made a difference. You've given these people hope. Arin nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. And I couldn't have done it without you and Solara. We're a team, Kael. Together, we'll reclaim Draconia. The dawn of the battle day arrived with a crimson sky, as if the heavens themselves were bracing for the conflict to come. The resistance gathered in the city square, armed and ready. Solara, her scales gleaming in the morning light, stood proudly beside Arin, embodying the strength and majesty of the dragon riders. As they marched towards the stronghold, the air buzzed with tension and anticipation. The path was lined with the memories of battles past, but today would mark a turning point. Arin's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and determination, each step bringing her closer to the inevitable clash. The stronghold loomed ahead, its dark spires reaching towards the sky like the claws of a beast. The forces of darkness awaited them, their ranks filled with mercenaries, dark mages, and corrupted soldiers. At their center stood the sorcerer, a figure of menace and power, cloaked in shadow. The battle erupted with a deafening roar as the resistance clashed with the dark forces. Swords clanged, spells crackled, and dragons soared through the sky, their fiery breath raining destruction upon their enemies. Arin fought at the forefront, her dragon steel sword blazing with magical energy. Each strike was precise, each movement fluid, her bond with Solara guiding her actions. Kael fought beside her, his skill and bravery unmatched. Together, they cut through the enemy ranks, their partnership a testament to the bond they had forged. The resistance fought valiantly, their spirits lifted by the presence of the dragon's heir. As the battle raged, Arin faced the sorcerer. He stood tall and imposing, dark energy swirling around him. Their eyes met, and Arin felt the full force of his malevolence. The sorcerer raised his staff, casting a powerful spell meant to overwhelm her. Drawing upon the strength of the Lost Kingdom and the power of her bond with Solara, Arin countered the spell, their magic clashing in a dazzling display of light and dark. The ground trembled beneath them, and for a moment, it seemed as though the outcome was uncertain. But Arin's resolve never wavered. With a final surge of power, she broke through the sorcerer's defenses, her sword striking true. The sorcerer fell, his dark magic dissipating into the air. A collective cheer rose from the resistance, their victory assured. The forces of darkness, leaderless and demoralized, scattered and fled. The stronghold was reclaimed, and with it, the heart of Draconia. In the aftermath of the battle, the people of Draconia began to rebuild. The wounds of betrayal and conflict would take time to heal, but with the dragon's heir leading them, hope was restored. Arin stood before the gathered crowd, Kael and Solara by her side, her heart filled with pride and determination. Today, we reclaim our kingdom, she declared, her voice carrying across the square. Together, we will restore the balance and honor the legacy of the dragon riders. This is just the beginning. A new era dawns for Draconia. The crowd erupted in cheers, their faith in the future renewed. As Arin looked out over the faces of her people, she knew that the journey had been worth it. The challenges they had faced had forged them into something stronger, something unbreakable. With Kael and Solara by her side, Arin embraced her destiny as the dragon's heir. The road ahead would not be easy, but with the support of her friends and the strength of her bond with Solara, she was ready to lead Draconia into a new age of peace and prosperity.